Welcome back, everybody. Jordan Griffin here. I wanted to talk to you today about the 7 simple steps to handle your money. Now, these are tools that anybody can use. They're really broadly applicable to just about any age. Obviously, you have some more specifics, you'll have to do some digging on your own. These steps are really easy to follow and are great for somebody maybe who just started out in the workforce. You just got a new job, you just got out of college, suddenly you're looking at, income coming in every month. And if you follow these steps, it really will help you in terms of setting you up for success. But first, I'll need you to set me up for success by hitting the like button down below. Step 1, you're going to want to create a budget. It's incredibly difficult to determine what's happening with your money if you don't have a budget set up. If you're not really religiously keeping track of your income and your expenses, you'll find that you might be running out of money a lot faster than you had anticipated. So there are plenty of tools out there that you can utilize to track your expenses. Personally, I've been using Personal Capital for about a year now. I had used Mint previously, but I really just prefer kind of the interface and the ease of use of Personal Capital over Mint. There's another tool that's very popular amongst kind of the personal finance community, and that's called You Need a Budget, or YNAB. You might see it as an acronym in various communities online. And this is a really, really robust tool. You do have to pay to use it, but you can get really granular with your budgets if that's kind of something that's interesting to you. I found it to be a little cumbersome, and I just didn't want to spend all of that time dedicated to it just because I know my personal expenses. I don't spend a ton of money every month, so for me it kind of felt like overkill. Personally, I treat my income and expenses like I would a business. So I try to make sure every single month, most months I should say, that my income outpaces my expenses. So really this just comes down to living below your means. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or a millionaire or you make, 12 bucks an hour at Target. It's really incredibly important that you spend less than you make. So obviously that's, difficult for some people depending on their situation. Lifestyle creep can certainly get in the way, especially if you just started a new job and you've got income coming in. It can be very appealing and easy to want to try to keep up with your friends in terms of, going out to drink, going out and partying. But it's incredibly important that, you don't kind of hurt your future self by going a little too aggressive in your youth and, spending a bunch of money on credit cards and not being able to pay those off every month, which is why it's incredibly important to have a budget. Next, you'll want to build your emergency fund. So an emergency fund is typically a liquid fund in an account that you don't touch unless you need access to those funds. So for me, I've got mine in just a typical high interest savings account, and I deposit every month to that until I've got about 6 months worth of expenses saved up in there. You're going to use the emergency fund for exactly that, for any unexpected expenses that come up, whether that's travel, maybe a loved one passed away and you have to travel unexpectedly to attend the funeral, or maybe a big appliance goes out at your home. For us last year in the summertime, our fridge went out, and so we had to drop a few $1,000s on a new fridge. And while I was not particularly happy about spending that money because I'm cheap and I would have preferred to just hold on to it forever, it was the pandemic. I really didn't want to be without a fridge to keep our food cool, and that just wouldn't have been fun. But fortunately, we had those funds in our emergency fund. We were able to put it on a credit card, get some points, pay the credit card off right away, and that's why the emergency fund exists. Typical recommendations for an emergency fund are going to be between 3 and 6 months. So I keep about 6 months of expenses in there just because I am very, very glass half empty. I expect the worst to happen, and then I am pleasantly surprised when life is mediocre. For other people, they might have, maybe 9 months to a year worth of expenses, depending on their situation. For you, maybe you're comfortable with 1 or 2 months. I would probably recommend 3 to 6, just because you never know what might happen. If you lose a job, you don't want to have to move out of your apartment, move back in with the parents just to get by. Next, you're going to want to participate in your employer-sponsored retirement plan. So if your employer is generous enough to offer, a 401k or similar retirement vehicle, and they offer a match, you're going to want to contribute up to that amount. So for instance, my company, we do 100% up to 3%, and then we do 50% at 4 and 5%. So I put in 6% so that I get a 4% company match, and so that I get, essentially I'm saving 10% of my income annually. If your company does offer the employer match, it's incredibly important that you take advantage of what they're offering. It's essentially free money. I mean, it's money that you did nothing to gain, and the company is just contributing it to your account on your behalf. So in my instance, I'm contributing 6, they're contributing 4. I mean, essentially I'm getting, like a 60% return on my investment just right out the gate. And if you only do, 3%, with my company, for instance, they'll match 3%. Well, you're essentially doubling your money for doing nothing. If your company doesn't offer an employer match, you can move on to the next step, which is dealing with your high interest debt. So this is going to be any loans you might have, any credit card debt, any student loans, etc., that are over 4% interest. And why they do 4% interest is just typically because anything less than 4% interest, the kind of general guidance is that it might be more advantageous to you to invest in the stock market. So a good example here is, let's say you've got a couple loans out there. You've got one that's, let's say, $6,000 loan at about 6%. You got another loan that's only $1,100, but that's only sitting at 2% interest. So typical guidance there, let's say you get a bonus at work for, $8,000. So typically there, what the recommendations are is that you make those minimum payments on both of those loans so that you don't get any late penalties assigned to you. And then you could take any extra you have on there and do a couple different methods. So there's a snowball method and an avalanche method. So the snowball method essentially states that you start with the lowest loan first, and then you kind of build your way up to the higher loans. And the avalanche method kind of takes the reverse of that. And here, what you're going to do is you'll actually use those funds you had from that bonus in this hypothetical situation and apply those to the higher interest loan and the higher balanced loan so that you can save yourself, interest in the long run. Now, I've been seeing some arguments made in the past year or so regarding student loan debt. Essentially from people posting online regarding their student loans and saying, hey, I just got the stimulus check, or maybe I got a bonus at work. What should I do with it, given the fact that, we don't have to worry about our interest right now? And this is really going to depend on your view of debt. So for me personally, I would use any extra money I had to pay down student loans. I hate debt. I don't want any of it. Aside from my mortgage, I pay off my credit card every month. I don't have student loan debt, which is a blessing. But if it were up to me, I would be using any extra money I had to pay that student loan debt off as quickly as possible. Even though, yeah, you're not getting any interest on it right now, but let's say you do invest in the stock market, and then in the next 6 months, the stock market drops 30%. It's entirely possible. It could happen. Just remember that paying off a loan is a guaranteed return at that loan's interest rate. So in terms of your student loans, depending on what your interest rate is and how much you have left to pay off, paying it off might just give you a sense of relief. I'm sure it would feel amazing, but you really have to decide what level of debt you're comfortable with. So you've completed all the previous steps. Next, you're going to want to contribute to an IRA. So here you can choose to either do a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, and I've got a video here that you can watch regarding a Roth IRA. So these are going to be, a tax advantage account. You can contribute up to $6,000 in the current tax year. And if you are able to contribute that full amount this year, if you are in the period of January 1st through April 15th, you can actually contribute to the previous year as well. If you are over the age of 50, that contribution limit is going to increase to $7,000. Now here, this is a great opportunity for you to save some additional money for retirement in a really tax advantaged account. And typically these are going to have great funds available for you that are really low cost. And so you might be saying, well, why would I do this as well as a 401k? Well, depending on what your company has in their 401k offerings, a IRA is another tool for you to use where you have a little bit more of a selection of the funds available. So if you've got your IRA opened up, you've got your 401k done, you're fully contributed to your IRA, Now, what do you do next? So next, I would say save even more for retirement. So if between your 401k and your IRA, you have not hit about 15% of your income saved for retirement, I would try to do so. Obviously, you can do anywhere from 15 to whatever amount you're comfortable with, especially if you're trying to live that FIRE lifestyle, which, if you're not aware of what that means, that's financial independence, retire early. But you can really contribute as much as you want, obviously, to your retirement. But Dave Ramsey, as well as others, financial, experts, all recommend saving about 15% of your income per year for retirement. You've completed all the previous steps. You've saved 15% of your income. You got rid of any high interest debt. Now what do you do? Well, now's a great time for you to figure out what you want to save your money on. So maybe you want to start saving for a down payment on a house. Maybe you want to spend your money on a vacation to Tahiti. Maybe you are thinking about having kids in the future and a 529 college savings plan is probably a good idea for you. Or perhaps you are participating in a high deductible health plan and you have access to an HSA and you're eligible to contribute to your HSA. So with your HSA, you're able to contribute funds to that you can utilize on qualified medical expenses. And if you're really lucky, maybe your employer will also contribute on your behalf. So if you've done everything here and you're saving up for everything else and you've still got money left over, why are you watching this video? Why am I even telling you what to do? You can probably just skip to whatever you want to do next. Frankly, I should probably be taking advice from you if you've done all these things and you still have money left over. There you have it, everybody. That's 7 simple steps for you to follow for personal finance. I hope you found this information helpful, and as always, if you did, please like the video, comment down below maybe what steps you're currently working on, or maybe you're independently wealthy and you don't need to work for a living, in which case, are you hiring? Do you need an assistant? Can I have money, please? Thank you. We'll see you next time.